It's shiny new fighter season, this time with the RSI Meteor, a fast-moving, hard-hitting medium fighter complete with an impressive interior space. For many, the Meteor will be an exciting prospect. But does all that firepower come at the expense of durability, making this ship a glass cannon? I'm Forrester, and this video will review the currently flyable RSI Meteor, which is described on the Star Citizen website as a medium fighter. If you've seen other ship reviews on this channel, you may recognise that this video follows the usual format. It's split into 5 sections, starting with a ship tour, assessing combat performance, reviewing handling and visibility, looking at the operating costs and profitability, before finally summarising. As always, I've included timestamps in the video description in case you want to skip ahead. And if you're one of the many people watching who isn't yet subscribed to the channel, you might consider that, not least so you can keep up to date with new ship reviews like this when they drop. And this review of the Meteor is based on performance in Star Citizen Alpha 4.2. And we'll start the tour of the Meteor by moving from the starboard side, approaching the front. The glass canopy is immediately visible, as are the large cannons flanking either side of it and the smaller weapons that make up the armament of the ship. To get aboard, there is an elevator with a button on the front of the middle underside. This drops a small lift down from which it's possible to head up into the ship. With some careful tractor beam work, it is possible to bring things up like ship components, but it's not the easiest to do so. On the port side of the ship is a bed, as well as access to the personal storage inventory of the ship. Behind the bed, next to a small button in the wall, is a small toilet. And at the rear of the ship is a component bay, hidden behind a button. On the rear starboard side is a small kitchen area. And amidships on the starboard side is some more component access, once again hidden behind a button. Further forward we enter into the cockpit section. There's another area of component access hidden behind a button, as well as a fire extinguisher. And then the lovely cockpit chair. And now on the port side is some more component access. Hidden away on the top is a button which deploys the weapons rack in the middle of the Meteor. And then one of my favourite places on the ship, the cockpit chair, silhouetted against the front with that lovely wide glass canopy in front. The Meteor comes armed with 4 size 3 weapons on gimbals, and by default they're FL-33 laser cannons. Then, straddling the side of these are 2 large size 5 Leonid ballistic cannons. The larger cannons are bespoke and cannot be swapped out for something else. Then the Meteor is further armed with a suite of missiles, including 4 size 4 and 4 size 2 missiles. The size 2 hardpoints can't be changed, but the size 4s can be downgunned to up to 32 size 1 missiles. Defensively, the Meteor carries 2 size 1 shield generators, which is comparatively light when contrasted to some of the other larger fighters. When it does start taking fire, it tends to melt fairly quickly, kicking in the 13.5 minute reclaim timer or expedited to 4.5 minutes. Put together, in a combat scenario, the Meteor is as hard-hitting as other fighters and faster than many, but at the expense of durability. Moreover, the speed advantage is really only in a straight line, so in a furball the speed advantage is reduced somewhat. The Q&A for the ship suggests targeting heavy fighters or small multi-crew ships for short engagements, hitting fast, hitting hard, and then hitting the road, and that's how the Meteor seems to work best. There are some additional challenges too, such as having 2 different aim points for the 2 different weapon types, and often the ship refuses to change weapons groups, which can make it even more challenging to land the shots you want. But even so, the firepower is heavy enough that the targets that the Meteor is designed to go after tend to disappear quickly. Not to mention, the feel of the cannons obliterating a target is pretty awesome. Visibility from the cockpit at the front of the ship is good. The clear glass canopy gives good views to the front and sides, with small decorative struts slightly impacting sightlines above and below. The Meteor is, however, fast. The SCM limiter sits at 229 meters per second, but with afterburner, that's up to 570 meters per second. In a straight line, that means that the Meteor is quick. In and amongst the twists and turns, things do slow down slightly, but with a mindset to pilot the ship like a muscle car and just drifting a little whilst letting the powerful engines do the work, it can be thrown around some fairly tight corners. At nav speeds, the Meteor rises to a scary 1,405 meters per second, making it one of the fastest ships in game. At those speeds, it's not uncommon to see the pilot put under 15 Gs, which often straddles the zone close to blackout. That's also true for slamming on the brakes, where redout becomes a consideration. The quantum range of the Meteor is reasonable, with the ability to cross Stanton or much of Pyro before needing to refuel. Depending on what you do with your Meteor, it can be on the more expensive side to run. Particularly, restocking on ammunition and missiles can be into the tens of thousands of Alpha UEC, with fuel tending to be a little cheaper. The Meteor can make some of that back by running combat contracts, for which the medium and high threat type of missions seem to be the sweet spot. In the spirit of the ship, the Meteor can fly in, knock out the target, and then clean up or disengage depending on pilot preference. Although there is some internal space, there's no cargo grid aboard. However, the weapons rack does hint at the possibility of using the Meteor as a bunker runner, albeit without any medical facilities aboard. In terms of upgrades, personally I'd leave the Meteor as stock. Most of the standard parts are military grade, and many of the weapons don't change for anything else. Meteor is a nice looking ship, both inside and out. Externally, it has a nod to the look of the Zeus series, with the landing gear reminiscent of the Aurora. Then there's an elevator light to show where the lift will come down, and engine nacelles, which look almost Star Trek. Inside, much of the decor looks inspired by the Zeus and the Polaris, which, whilst not to everybody's taste, does have a style to it. That internal space is also rare for a fighter, particularly a medium fighter. It means that the Meteor offers a bed for convenient logout, as well as component access from the interior of the ship, which may be of use in the future. Also, the profile of the chair and window at the front of the ship looks absolutely awesome, no matter what comes into view through the glass. The Meteor fits in a small hangar, and the onboard weapons rack gives it more places to store personal arms than many other fighters, so there's a lot to like about the ship. The main downside really is that it's a bit of a glass cannon. As the name would suggest, the Meteor flies very fast until it falls out of the sky, which a relatively small amount of damage will do. It rewards pilots who are cautious and selective about which engagements they fight in, not least because the Meteor is fast enough to be able to pick and choose a fight. The separate aim markers for the different stock weapons is also a drawback. Ultimately, the ship is a medium fighter. It's not supposed to be an everything ship. It's not supposed to be able to fight both the Arrow and the Idris. Perhaps the strong release performance of some other fighters over recent years has given the impression that these things should dominate on release, but in my opinion, it's a good thing that the Meteor has a niche, a place where it excels, but with equal drawbacks to the strengths. At a launch price of $240 to $260, it's on the more expensive side. As a newly launched ship, there is no in-game price at time of recording, but if it came in at a price of 5 to 7 million Alpha UEC, that would be a compelling option to pick up in-game. There's also the risk of the ship being rebalanced down the line, which often happens with newly released ships, although I feel that the Meteor is fairly well balanced as is. Personally, unless a buyer is absolutely besotted by the aesthetics of the Meteor, it's probably a ship I would recommend buying in-game as a second ship after a starter for a combat-oriented player, as and when it becomes available to do so. But perhaps you disagree. I look forward to reading your thoughts on the Meteor in the video comments. If you enjoyed this video, you might press the like button to help me understand what videos to make more of in future, and if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, you might like to do that too, so that YouTube knows to show you more videos like this in future. But otherwise, and as always, thank you for watching.